Right now, over 75 million Americans collecting Social Security are caught in the middle of one of the biggest benefit debates Washington has seen in years. And most people have no idea what's actually on the table. Here's what you need to know. The Social Security Administration confirmed a 2.8% COLA increase for 2026. That's roughly $56 a month added to the average retirement check. Sounds decent, until you realize that in a recent AARP survey, 77% of older adults said even a 3% COLA would not be enough to keep up with rising prices. And that's exactly why Congress is now fighting over something much bigger. Senators introduced the Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act, which would deliver a flat $200 per month on top of your regular check. That's an extra whopping $200 a year for every eligible recipient. It covers not just retirees but also SSI recipients, railroad retirement beneficiaries, and veterans on disability, anyone living on a fixed income. But here's the part nobody's talking about: Medicare. Part B premiums are also projected to rise, and those costs come straight out of your Social Security check before you ever see a penny. This video breaks down every single detail: who qualifies, what's passed, what hasn't, and what you should do right now to protect your benefits. So let's slow down and really walk through all of this together, because there is a lot happening at the same time. And the average news headline is only giving you about 10% of the full picture. You deserve the whole story. And that's exactly what we're going to go through today, piece by piece, so that when you're done watching this video, you'll know more about what's going on with your Social Security than most people sitting in Washington. Let's start from the very beginning, because before we can talk about the $200, we have to talk about what is already happening to your check right now in 2026. The Social Security Administration officially announced that benefits for nearly 71 million Social Security recipients increased by 2.8% starting in January of this year, with the average retirement benefit going up by roughly $56 a month. Now, when that was first announced back in October 2025, a lot of people thought, okay, that's not bad. A raise is a raise. But the moment people started actually looking at their January checks, reality hit hard. And the reason why comes down to something that not enough people are talking about openly. At almost the same time as the COLA announcement, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services confirmed that the standard monthly premium for Medicare Part B, which covers your doctor visits and outpatient care, would jump from $185 all the way up to $202.90, a nearly 9.7% increase. Let that sink in for just a second. Your Social Security went up 2.8%. Your Medicare Part B premium went up 9.7%. That's more than 3 times the rate of your raise. And here's the part that makes it even more frustrating. Because Medicare Part B premiums are automatically deducted directly from your Social Security check before you ever even see the money, that 17 on 90 premium increase disappears from your benefit before the month even begins. So what started as a $56 raise is immediately knocked down to roughly $38 in actual take-home money before you even buy a single egg or fill a single prescription. And it gets deeper than that. The annual deductible for Medicare Part B also went up to $283 in 2026, which is $26 more than it was last year. And the Part A deductible for inpatient hospital stays increased to $177.36, which is $60 more than the year before. So you're not just paying more every month, you're also paying more every time you walk into a hospital. For people on a fixed income who are already rationing their medications and skipping dental appointments, these numbers are not just statistics. They represent real decisions between getting the care you need and keeping the lights on. Now, here's something that really puts this all in perspective. According to research, Social Security benefits have lost approximately 20% of their purchasing power since 2010, even accounting for every single COLA adjustment that's been made along the way. Think about what that means. You've been getting a raise every year for over a decade, and yet you can buy less today than you could 15 years ago. The math simply has not been working in the favor of America's retirees for a very long time. A Motley Fool survey found that 54% of retirees felt the 2.8% raise for 2026 was simply not enough, and 68% said it would do little to nothing to help them cover essential living expenses. These aren't fringe opinions. These are the majority of the people who depend on Social Security to survive every single month. This is the exact backdrop against which the $200 proposal was born. And this is where things get really important for you to understand, because the conversation around this bill is surrounded by a lot of noise, some political, some misleading, and you need to know exactly what the facts are. In late October 2025, the Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act was formally introduced in Congress, proposing a flat $200 per month emergency increase to Social Security benefits on top of the existing 2.8% COLA, running from January through July of 2026. That means if it passed, eligible recipients would have received both the standard raise and an extra $200 stacked on top of it every single month for 6 consecutive months. For the average retiree receiving about $2,008 per month, that would have represented a 10% lift, an extra $200 over the course of those 6 months. Now, who exactly is behind this bill? The legislation was introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and co-led by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York, along with Senate Finance Committee Ranking Member Ron Wyden of Oregon and senators from Arizona, Maryland, Illinois, New York, Minnesota, California, Vermont, and several other states. This was not a small effort. It had serious Senate Democratic leadership behind it from the very start. And on the House side, Congressman John Larson and Congressman Stephen Horsford introduced a companion version of the bill, making the push truly bicameral, happening in both chambers of Congress simultaneously. Now, who would this bill cover? This is one of the most important questions, and it's one that a lot of people are getting wrong online. The Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act would cover individuals receiving standard Social Security retirement benefits, supplemental security income, railroad retirement benefits, veterans disability compensation, veterans pension benefits, and civil service retirement benefits. And here's a detail buried in the actual bill text that most channels aren't telling you. The $200 payment would be completely tax-free, could not be counted as income for any other federal benefit program, and would be protected from garnishment or offset. That means if you receive SNAP benefits, Medicaid, or any other needs-based federal assistance, this $200 would not be used to reduce or disqualify you from anything else. It would be clean, additional money in your pocket. But here's where you need to hear the honest truth, because this channel is not going to feed you false hope just to get views. Despite polling showing the proposal is overwhelmingly popular with voters across party lines, with support from 82% of Democrats, 81% of independents, and even 84% of Republicans, the bill faced long odds in the Republican-controlled Senate due to a complete lack of bipartisan support from lawmakers themselves. Think about how remarkable that is for just a moment. The American people, regardless of party, want this. Republican voters want it. Independent voters want it. And yet the Republican-controlled Congress has not moved forward with it. As of its introduction on October 30th, 2025, the bill was read twice and referred to the Senate Finance Committee, where it has remained. Analysts have pointed out that a similar proposal was introduced by the same group of Democratic senators back in 2020 during the pandemic, and it also never passed. Although a one-time $250 payment was eventually authorized in that era, the ongoing monthly increase was never approved. So history is not on the side of this bill passing in its current form. That's the hard truth. But, and this is a really important but, that does not mean this conversation is over. Washington never operates in a straight line. Bills get attached to other legislation, deals get made behind closed doors, and the political pressure from an electorate that is this united on an issue has a way of moving things eventually, even if it happens slowly and quietly. What you should also know is that this $200 bill is just one part of a much larger wave of legislative energy around Social Security reform right now. Separately, Democrats have also introduced the Boosting Benefits and COLAs for Seniors Act, which would change the formula used to calculate the annual COLA from the CPIW, which tracks spending patterns of urban wage earners, to the CPIE, which is the Consumer Price Index for the elderly, a formula that tracks the actual spending patterns of Americans aged 62 and older. This second bill is arguably even more impactful in the long run, because it would permanently fix the structural problem in how your raise is calculated every year. Right now, the government measures inflation based on what working-age people spend money on, things like commuting, work clothing, and technology. Retired seniors spend their money very differently. They spend more on healthcare, on medications, on in-home services. Advocates have argued for years that the CPIE better captures the real cost pressures facing retirees, and switching to it could meaningfully increase future COLA adjustments. There's also one more major piece of this puzzle that a lot of people missed completely because it came quietly. Buried inside the tax legislation that Congress passed in mid-2025, often called the One Big Beautiful Bill, was a brand new tax deduction specifically for Americans aged 65 and older, which can reduce taxable income by up to $6,000 per eligible taxpayer. This deduction applies to individual filers with a modified adjusted gross income up to $75,000 or married couples filing jointly with a combined income up to $150,000. So if you're in that income range, there is a real tax benefit available to you right now that you may not even know about yet. This doesn't replace the need for the $200 raise, not by a long shot, but it is a concrete, signed-into-law benefit that you should absolutely be taking advantage of when you file your taxes. Now let's zoom out and talk about what all of this means for the bigger picture, because the stakes here go far beyond just one bill or 1 year's COLA. The Congressional Budget Office has warned that Social Security's trust fund could be depleted by 2032, which would trigger an automatic 24% reduction in benefits if Congress takes no action before that point. For someone receiving $2,000 a month today, that would mean their check dropping to $1,520 overnight. The Senior Citizens League found that if those automatic cuts happened, 73% of seniors say they would struggle to pay their monthly bills, 68% would cut back on food and groceries, and 52% would skip or delay medical care and prescriptions. These are not hypothetical concerns. This is a very real fiscal timeline that Congress has known about for years and has continued to delay addressing. One solution that has bipartisan support among the public, though not among lawmakers, is eliminating the earnings cap on the Social Security payroll tax, which currently sits at $184,500. According to the Social Security Administration's own chief actuary, eliminating that cap entirely would extend Social Security's solvency by 68 years, all the way through 2090. That means one legislative change could solve the long-term funding problem almost completely. And yet here we are, still having this fight year after year over whether seniors deserve an extra $56 a month, while that conversation sits largely ignored. So, what does all of this mean for you right now today? It means you need to stay informed and you need to stay loud. The reason these conversations are happening at all, the reason senators are standing up and putting their names on bills that millions of Americans are watching, is because the pressure from real people who depend on Social Security is undeniable. According to the Senior Citizens League, 1 in every 4 seniors in America relies on Social Security as their sole source of income, and 73% depend on it for more than half of their monthly budget. That is an enormous portion of the American population that cannot afford for Washington to get this wrong. And the more informed you are, the more you actually know what's in these bills, what's real and what's political noise, the better positioned you are to make decisions that protect your own financial life. So here is where things stand as of right now. The $200 bill was introduced, has enormous public support, is currently stalled in committee, and faces a very difficult path in a divided Congress. The 2.8% COLA is already in effect and hitting your January 2026 checks. Medicare Part B premiums have gone up nearly 10%, effectively eating into a big chunk of that raise for millions of people. A new tax deduction for seniors 65 and older is now law and may benefit you when you file. And the long-term solvency of Social Security itself remains a ticking clock that Congress has not addressed with any serious urgency. None of this is someone's opinion. Every single thing covered in this video comes from official government announcements, congressional records, and verified reporting, because that's exactly what you came here for. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because this situation is moving fast and we're going to keep bringing you updates the moment anything changes on the $200 bill, on Medicare costs, and on everything else that directly affects your check. Share this video with someone you know who collects Social Security, because there are people out there right now who still believe they got a real raise this year and have no idea how much of it already disappeared before they even saw it. You deserve the truth, and we're going to keep giving it to you.